The show starts in 3, 2, 1.
There goes that man's jock strap.
Oh my God, did you see that?
America's team? Yeah, right.
Oh, baby, it's a big day in sports.
There's nothing like battling it out with your teammates all season long to go win a championship.
Green Bay's got it this year.
Huge move for them. I think it's going to be a game changer.
We have a lot to talk about this busy week in the sports world. Welcome to the In a League of Their Own podcast.
The In a League of Their Own podcast is brought to you by Golf Kicks. Screw your shoes. By Canadips. Rep Sports. By Smooth My Balls. And by Streamer Loot. Check out the In a League of Their Own merch line today. Welcome to the show. Let's see what Austin and Collin are diving into today.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's show of In a League of Their Own podcast. Today's episode is number 72. So kicking it off with a fun sports fact. 72 is the number of victories the Chicago Bulls achieved during their magnificent 1995-1996 NBA season, which at the time was the NBA record. And they went on, and that was part of their 6 championships run. So I thought that was a pretty interesting, cool stat to name.
How many games did they play back then?
It was still 82.
Still 82? Okay.
Yep. 72 and 10, and then the Warriors went, what was it, in 6?
They only had 72 wins as well.
I thought they had more than that.
Warriors best regular season record 73-9. So they did one better.
So that's what it was.
That's unreal. Only 9 losses.
Gotta be 82. Yep, and I just remember watching the Last Dance documentary when they were talking about it at the beginning of the year when they were winning all these games, and they looked at the schedule and they're just like, we might not lose till January, February. And for sure shit, it's unbelievable for them to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
The other one that I was going to mention was 72 is the number of spaces in the game of Parcheesi, which is a board game from start space to home, which no one knows anything about that game. So I wasn't.
Yeah, I've never heard of that. Parcheesi?
Yeah.
What is it like
It's a board game. It looks pretty interesting. Let me just real quick pull this up here so we can. So it's like there's 4 circles on it. Too bad we can't pull up a picture here and show people. It's got 68 spaces around the game board, and 12 of them are dark colored, yada, yada, yada. And then the extra 4 spaces are the start and the end, and then there's like 2 different things. Each player rolls the dice, and then they move their piece around the board in whatever way. And then there's like different things like nest and all this stuff where it's seems pretty interesting with like little things that you toss. I don't know. It's really interesting. It looks really interesting, but yeah.
All right.
So let's dive on over what you got in the NFL for us.
Yeah, so last week, one of the biggest points around the NFL was Carson Wentz being out indefinitely with a foot injury. Looks like they got a timetable for him. Looks like he's going to be out 5 to 12 weeks as he will need surgery on that foot. And in light of that, the Colts signed former Cardinal and Packer QB Brett Hundley to the squad. So kind of see what happens there. He would be the vet. He would be the oldest guy on that squad. Even though he still is a super young guy. And then they're still looking for other long-term solutions, and Nick Foles and Jimmy G are the top 2 of the list for them to pursue to try to bring into Indy, depending on Wentz's situation. Obviously, if it's closer to that 5-week mark,
He'll be back before the season starts. Then.
Yeah, he'd be back. Maybe would miss week 1, week 2. But if he's out 12 weeks,
because it's 6 weeks till the week 1.
Oh,
so
okay.
He'd be back right beforehand. Otherwise, he's going to miss through week 7 if it's the full 12.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, then if it's closer to the 12-week part, then obviously they're going to want to find some, because 7 games, that's almost half of your season that you're going to miss. So, yeah, it's going to be kind of interesting to see what they do here. I'm sure if they can find out once he comes out of surgery, maybe a week or so after, the doctors will let him know, oh, he's recovering fast. It'll be closer to 5-6 weeks, or no, it's going to take some time. It's going to be closer to 10, 11, 12 weeks, to where if they go to try to get one of these QBs like Jimmy G or Nick Foles to bring in.
Yeah, the only problem with that is they don't, after they signed Carson Wentz to over $100 million contract, so they don't have the cap room. They'd have to cut bait with Carson Wentz if they want to bring in one of those guys just due to cap reasons. So early reports is what I've been hearing is that Jacob Eason's their guy. He's going to be their guy going forward. He's going to be the QB1 at this point. And some of the reports and stuff that I've read coming out of Indy about practices with him taking QB1 snaps, he's looked very good, even though he's never obviously had any NFL experience. He knows what he's doing. He's been in this position in college, and he's a solid quarterback. He can throw the rock around. So I think the Colts are just fine, honestly. This is one of kind of the toss-up divisions in the league, other than the NFC East, which is always a crapshoot too. But you could potentially go 3, and even if he does miss the first 7, you go 3-4. You get Carson Wentz back, you could still end up making the playoffs. So I really don't think that they're really threatened by this injury. People were saying this could have been a lingering foot injury all the way that he sustained back in high school, which was really confusing to me, as how no one's ever noticed this injury ever before, unless it was just all of a sudden it finally just went, and there it was. So Indianapolis Colts, hopefully Eason, can get you through. You got 3 great running backs, so you might see them handing the ball off 50 times a game.
Yeah, and that's a defensive oriented team too. That young defensive core, year after year, they keep adding more and more on that end. So, yeah, in a high scoring league, you need your offense to put up points, but at the same time, when you have probably a top 5 defense in the league right now, I'd say the Colts are. So long as they're holding teams off the scoreboard, that at least gives you a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. And then talking about another injury here, going over to rookie Devonta Smith, he's set to miss 2 to 3 weeks with a sprained MCL. Not looking good for the Eagles. They put a lot of their chips in the bag to get him, thinking that he was going to come in and really be a game changer. MCL knee injuries, it's not a good sign when you're this young and you're kind of already dealing with that before you're taking any professional wear and tear on your body here. But surgeries have gotten so well now. Hopefully he can come back with it even stronger than before. And it'd be nice to see this young kid, have established himself and have himself quite a career.
And if I remember correctly, his senior year, him and Jalen Waddle both had kind of some injuries. I know Jalen Waddle had a leg injury.
He sat out, I think. No, never mind. That was the guy from Clemson. Excuse me. Sorry.
Yeah, because Devontae Smith won Heisman last year.
Yeah, because that was Amari Rodgers, right? That sat out.
Yes, it was
for COVID reasons.
Yeah.
So if he would have played, he probably honestly would have probably won the Heisman.
Yeah.
He was those 3 guys, really, the running back from Alabama, and then Smith and what's his name, Amari Rodgers. Those guys were like the guys that were supposed to get it, going into the thing, and then COVID happened. So yeah, it was an interesting year. And then he ended up, what was it? His shoulder? He separated his shoulder or something. I just remember him being in a sling in the national championship game. Or no, he ended up playing in the national championship game.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what happened with that one.
Yeah, that was a long time ago, it seems like.
And I guess keeping the injury talk going here, moving over to Baltimore then, Marquise Hollywood Brown missed his third straight practice, looks like today, with a hamstring injury. And then rookie Rashad Bateman is going to be missing some time as well with some muscle tightness. Harbaugh said it doesn't look like anything serious, and hopefully it's just training camp tightness, and these guys are just working out all the kinks of the offseason stuff. But in a team where they're not known at all for their passing whatsoever, the Ravens have a great defense, and then they depend on J.K. Dobbins and Lamar Jackson on the ground to give them 150 to 200 yards between the two of them a game rushing. Bring in Rashad Bateman, another guy, one of the top five guys out of the draft at the receiver position. He should hopefully bring some explosion to that offense. So with both of those guys out, again, hopefully they're back, but for the time being, at least Ravens fans are kind of holding their breath over that.
Yeah, and another team that's holding their breath kind of over a completely different issue here is the Washington football team. They now have, I think it's 7 now, excuse me. They have 7 players now on the COVID-19 list, and the Washington football team is the second to lowest vaccination rates in the NFL. They just have climbed above 70%. One team still remains below 70%. The overall percentage of teams is 89.4%. 22 clubs in the NFL have over 90% vaccinations, and then there's 9 that are above 95%. So he basically gave a warning to his team, basically saying that you realize if this happened the day before the season opener or 2 days beforehand, this would impact our first 2 games, and we'd probably have to forfeit. And that's kind of, sending a big message, looking over in Minnesota as well, you have quarterback Kellen Mond, who was just drafted. He just tested positive for COVID-19, and Kirk Cousins is a high risk of close contact as it's in their quarterback group in Minnesota. So you're seeing COVID start to break out again, kind of all over the place, whether you're vaccinated or not vaccinated. It seems like whatever the reason for another spike, it seems that a lot of places I've been seeing over the weekend, a lot of bigger cities and stuff are going back to the mask mandates. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here. Like they just said, full fans, and now the NFL might have to retract on those words pretty quick here.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's the NFL is their own government, so they're going to do whatever they want. If the money is that important to them, they will find a way to. I mean, even if they still have full stadiums, but make it vaccinated only can be in there. I'm sure they can find enough people that want to come to those games to where even the NFL has incentives to where they're paying the people to come to games just to fill the stadium. So who knows what they're going to do there. But yeah, it's kind of coming down to crunch time as to where the NFL is going to have to make a decision in the next week or two. So long as the world keeps trending the way it does with this new variant of more and more cases coming out, so where they might have to make that decision, like you said, to where they're going to have to come back on their statements of having full stadiums and go back down to 75, 50, 25% capacity.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting too. And I forgot to mention all of the Miami Dolphins tight ends besides Tim Tebow. So Mike Gesicki, Keith and Carter, Adam Sheehan also all go on the COVID-19 list. So it seems like it's affecting every single building, every single group, even every single workplace here. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens here with this whole thing, especially as like pushing for the vaccines. And then now all these people with the vaccines are still getting COVID and still having to miss out. So clearly, I don't think that was the solution, and they might have to figure out something else going forward if they want to have an NFL season, because if a team has to forfeit, think of how much money, like for instance, say the Miami Dolphins are playing the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas. Miami has to forfeit. Dallas loses billions of dollars because they have to cover all of the costs for nobody coming to the game, nobody doing that. So it really fucks with the team that's really hosting the game, because you have to cover all those expenses. And more likely than not, like if that happened to the Packers, I think the Packers should be screwed. That could potentially, I wouldn't say bankrupt the organization because we're worth a lot of money, but that would pull a lot of money out of a lot of people's pockets in order to keep that thing going, because we don't have a billionaire owner.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it too. Like you said, it's affecting more than one team. It's obviously the team that is forfeiting, they're taking a loss, no questions asked. And then whether they're the home team or the away team, the home team gets affected because they're not bringing in millions of dollars on that one Sunday.
And And then it's like 2 weeks. It's like if you get it like the day beforehand, that's 2 games. So if you're on the road 2 times, those 2 home teams are screwed.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
just think if it happened, like it could be unfortunate where there's one team that has 7 teams on their schedule that all have to forfeit. Like that bankrupts teams.
Yeah, like them. You have teams like the Jets and the Dolphins and the Jags like make the playoffs because everybody they keep playing has to forfeit.
Or if this, or if this virus or whatever continues to get super bad and it's worse even than it was the first time, and there's no NFL, think of how much money these, teams lose. So, yeah, it's really interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who's year 5 to rookie year, I feel like it affect like huge as a player. Above that, those guys don't probably need the NFL anymore. You know what I mean? They have either made enough money from the NFL or they have their endorsements. They have other companies that run their investments, all this and that, to where if something like that were to happen, it wouldn't be devastating for guys who have been in the league 5 to 10 to 20 years to where they can step away from the game, either call it quits and retire, which would suck for a lot of guys who are kind of in that last, like, oh, they can retire anywhere from this year to 3 years from now, to where if the NFL were to get shut down again, where it might force some of those guys' hands to, I don't want to stay in shape for a whole nother year doing off-season workouts in my garage, this and that. Where it sucked to see a lot of retirements happen in kind of a uncinematic way, because usually when somebody's going to retire, they kind of have a farewell tour, kind of like Drew Brees did every time he
play for Green Bay.
Yeah, that's true. But when they have a farewell tour, every stadium they go to, they all kind of give their thanks, realizing, oh, this is the last time he's going to be playing in this stadium. But if the league were to get shut down, guys like Tom Brady, Larry Fitzgerald, there's others, but those are the first 2 that come to mind as to if a season kind of goes south, it could be last year would have been the last time they stepped on the field and nobody knew it. Yeah.
Jared Goff. Yeah, there's a lot of older Cam Newton. There's a lot of older guys who could easily say, fuck this.
Yeah. Especially with how the NFL keeps making up more and more rules on the fly that keep benefiting the players less and less, to where some of these vets are just going to be like, you know what?
I've had enough.
Yeah, I don't need to jump through all these hoops. I've made enough money. I'm going to go host Jeopardy. And then kind of, I guess, wrapping things up, the last point that I had, and I'll throw it over to you, is that the Cleveland Browns signed Nick Chubb to a 3-year, $36.6 million extension. Huge move for them guys. Nick Chubb has developed more and more every year. I could see him kind of being in that conversation for top 3 running backs this year. I definitely say he's right at that cusp of like the top 5 right now. And this year, if he elevates it even more, he could be up there in the top 3. I don't see him leading the league in rushing yards just because of the offensive weapons they have, and Hooper and OBJ and Jarvis Landry. All those guys are going to get their catches, which is going to take yards out of Chubb's hands. But it's a good
last longer.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Especially being a running back. You have the shortest life shelf out of any of the positions in the NFL. So anything that you can take touches off yourself and still get paid, oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Look at Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, that's
collecting
true.
checks and maybe going in on 3rd down for a 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2.
Frank Gore is a fucking dinosaur.
Yeah, but he still rushes for over 1,000. He's still a beast.
I don't think he's rushed for over 1,000 in a while. Frank Gore. I feel like it's been, if I had to guess, I'd say probably at least 5 years since he's had a 1,000-yard season. 2020. Yeah. 600, 653, 599, 722, 961. 2016 was his last 1,000-yard season.
Yeah, and then look at the touches. Went down almost 100.
Yeah, that's true. That's crazy. He had at one point four 1,000-yard seasons in a row, and then 853, and then another 4,000-yard seasons.
Yeah, dude, he's been a beast.
How close has he got to be to Emmitt Smith?
I don't know. He's got to be.
He's got to be within a couple thousand yards, you think? Because yeah, it says he is 6,000 yards on the or 16,000 yards on the dot is
Yeah,
what he's at right now.
So he's passed Barry. He just passed Barry Sanders this last season. If he gets 726 this season, he'll pass Walter Payton, and he needs 2,355 yards to catch Emmett.
So at his rate, like 3 more seasons, he's got to play.
He's got to play at least getting like 800 yards.
Yeah.
He could do it, dude. He could do it.
Yeah, I mean, the guy looks old as fuck, but he's looked old for a long time.
Yeah, because the only ones on this list that even have a chance is him and Adrian Peterson.
Yeah.
And LaShawn McCoy, but he doesn't carry the ball anymore. So
no,
he's kind of done.
And neither is Peterson. Like you said, he comes in on third downs. Or if I think the most, I'm trying to think when he was on the Lions is probably the most time he saw on a team aside from obviously his time when he was with Minnesota. Otherwise, he was with the Saints for a bit, Washington football team for a bit. Where is he right now?
Detroit Lions.
Oh, he's still in Detroit. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Last season, he only had 604 yards on 156 carries. The year before that, 898, and the year before that, 1,000. So he's still definitely capable of hitting 1,000.
Yeah. Well, 600 yards on 150 carries. That's still like somewhere 4 or 5 yards a carry.
3.9.
3.9
average. Mm-hmm. Which is phenomenal.
Yeah, if you can get 4 yards out of a guy every time he touches the ball, like
in his whole career, every single season, it's been 3 yards plus, except for one, and that was in 2016, where he only played 3 games.
Oh yeah, didn't he have like
He got suspended.
Oh, he did
for the kid thing.
Oh yeah, that's right.
With the branch. Yep.
Fuck, I forgot about that.
Yep. And then that was his last calling in Minnesota. And that's when the suitcase tour began for him, where he had to pack his bags. So then he played for Arizona, Saints, Washington, Detroit. And then Arizona, New Orleans in one season. Like, that's got to suck.
Yeah. Well, New Orleans didn't make a whole lot of sense to me because they had Murray and Kamara. So he's the third running back on that roster. So that that year must have been like, all right, nobody else wants me. The Saints are giving me a third round or a third string spot.
He had 81 yards. 81 yards also.
Yeah.
And then in Minnesota, his last year there was 70. He had 72 yards. And then 2 seasons before that when he did his hamstring or whatever, and he only had 75 yards. But other than that, dude, the dude's a fucking animal.
Yeah. He's huge too. Like tall. It's
but
funny.
He's going to be 36 years old, dude. That's old as F.
Yeah.
For a running back, especially, dude.
Well, Frank Gore, what's he at? He's got to be close to that too, isn't he?
He's older than that, I think.
He is 38.
Yeah. He's 2 years older than Adrian Peterson. So potentially Adrian Peterson is technically on pace to pass Frank Gore if he can sustain what he's doing for 2 more years. He'll be ahead of where Frank Gore is at now.
Yeah.
So Adrian Peterson has a shot, technically, I guess, to pass Emmitt Smith.
Oh, wait a sec. It says Frank Gore is a free agent, so he's not even on a team right now.
Oh, Colts got bait.
Yeah. What the heck? Well, hold on. Well, let me see for a sec. He was on the Jets last. He hasn't been on the Colts for 4 years. He was on the Colts, and then he went to Miami for a year, then up to Buffalo for a year, and then last year he was in New York. And then, yeah, according to
Yeah, so Adrian Peterson's got the chance then.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But still, 18 or 16,000 yards. Frank Gore averages 4.3 yards attempt for his career. That's phenomenal.
But how many has he ever had like seasons where he's played under 4 games?
Games. No. The lowest he's played his lowest season was 2010. He played 11 games.
Yeah, Adrian Peterson has 2 threes and a 1.
Well, wasn't Peterson close to 2,000 yards once or twice in his career?
He hit 2,000.
Oh, he did. Okay.
2091, I think, is
2091.
2091 yards. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, I thought like it's not like you saw the year 2091. It was like the way I understood that.
1 second here, right here. 2097.
97.
Yep, that's the most. He had his second year in the league. He had 1,760. Then in 2012, his MVP season, he had 2,097. Then in 15, he had 1,485. And yeah, dude, Adrian Peterson's had a rough go at it as far as having to miss literally three seasons worth of games almost. And just think of how many more yards he would have had.
For his career, how many games has he played? Frank Gore is at 241 games played.
And he is at 180.
So he's played 60 less. So
that's like
four or five less seasons
worth of games.
But he's only 2 years younger. So
yeah, 2 years younger, and he's only 2,000 yards or like 1,600 yards behind Frank Gore. With 5 less seasons played worth of games, which is insane. So you could arguably say that he would, if he would have not gotten hurt and stayed out of trouble with the whole kid thing, he could have potentially been the greatest running back of all time as far as yards.
Yeah, I mean he's still going because
he's still going. The Lions feed him the ball too.
Yeah, because they don't really have another. I mean, they brought in Jamal Williams from Green Bay, and then
he'll probably take some touches this season.
They have DeAndre Swift, who's kind of a young developing guy. So, I mean,
he'll be the third down specialist.
Yeah,
and with him too, sometimes, like even watching him last season, sometimes he's still got plays where he's full of piss and vinegar, where he shows the old AP bursting it through the hole, taking it for 20 yards, and it's like, man, if you just give the guy the ball until he gets tired, he could do it.
Yeah. It makes you wonder too if he doesn't want that many reps so that he can keep going longer. If you could get 300 to 800 yards a season just by coming in getting 5 at most 10 touches a game. 10 touches would probably be a lot, so probably closer to like 5 touches a game. But if you can pop off for 50 yards a game, I mean, 5 times 17, 18. That's
a lot of yards.
Yeah, that'd be like almost 900 yards. That'd be like 900 yards. But that's if he's averaging 50 yards a game, which I mean is definitely doable.
Easily doable for him.
Especially for him, like you bring him in on a 3rd and 1 at like your own 20, and he pops off for a 70-yard run. Boom, there's his 50 yards in 1 carry.
Yeah, but you could easily do that.
Yeah.
All right. Do we want to do the segment now or
no? Yeah, we can jump into that.
So let's do it. So it is Monday, everyone. We have the No segment here. The one that I have today for Collin is a top 5 starting pitcher or no. CC Sabathia. Would you say he's a top 5 starting pitcher of all time or no?
Yeah, just with how I feel like for how long he went in his career and how well he took care of himself. I mean, I don't know how many games he's played. Obviously, he's not in the league anymore, but yeah, there's probably 3 to 5 years that he was arguably the greatest starting pitcher in a row. So yeah, I'd put him in the top five.
Sounds good.
Well, how many,
Clayton,
how many,
what-
how many total pitchers are there that you have?
I have a list of 8.
Okay, so technically, there's like three I that shouldn't be in the top five then.
Well, it's your opinion, so
Well, yeah,
it's
that's
not
true.
really necessarily a top 5 or not, unless I pulled it up by like stats, but I'm not doing it that way.
Sounds good.
Clayton Kershaw.
No, not yet. I feel like he's still got more time to go. Top 10, I would say yeah, but top five, not yet.
Sounds good. Pedro Martinez.
Pedro Martinez. I'm trying to remember who that is.
Started with the Mets. You had the Fro.
Oh shit.
You
Okay.
ended with the Red Sox.
He'd probably he'd probably be right at that like 5, 6 mark. So yeah, I'll say sure. I'll put him in the top five at the number 5 spot.
Okay. Roger Clemens.
Roger Clemens.
Got caught steroids. Played for the Yankees. And
Yeah.
then they got ditched him at the end of the Red Sox.
I'm gonna say no, just with the drug issues, because I feel like no matter who like football, baseball doesn't matter if they've got caught with steroids of any type or cheating of any type. Like if they like remove that, then yeah, you put them in there. But I've always been consistent as to where I'm kind of like I keep people out of that top five for those reasons. So I'll say no with him.
Okay, sounds good. Big old Randy Johnson.
Randy Johnson.
Killed the bird with the fastball.
Yeah. I put Martinez at number 5, so I'm kind of using him as like a better than or less than. I'm gonna say no. I'll put him right outside the top 5 as well.
Okay, he's probably number 1 on my list.
Really?
Yeah. Dude could throw like 108 miles an hour, just straight gas. And he pitched for so long. But that's just my opinion, obviously.
Yeah.
I wonder stats wise where I'm just looking stats wise where he actually ended up. Because he's got to be.
I'm just trying to because if I had stats pulled up, it'd be easier. But I'm just kind of going off of like how like.
So according to stats, he's 3rd all time.
Okay.
Pitched 1988 to 2009. His career stats, he was 303 and 166. He pitched 4,135 innings with a 3.29 ERA. His strikeouts per game, 10.61 was his average. Strikeouts a game, and strikeouts to walk. He'd strike out 4.25 batters before every walk.
Okay, so I guess based off stats, then yeah. I guess I didn't realize. Like, I knew he's a great pitcher, but I guess I didn't realize he was that good. So I mean, obviously, it makes sense to have him in the top 5. Then I guess from my understanding, he was like I knew he had a long career, but I thought he was just kind of like I didn't realize he was that consistent. I should say.
Yeah, and he got a World Series, and he won a World Series.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll put him in the top 5 then. I'll put him at like the 4 spot.
Sounds good. Justin Verlander.
Justin Verlander, no, just because he's kind of in that same ballpark as Clayton Kershaw. Like he's on his way there, arguably top 10, but top 5, he's still got a ways to go.
Sounds good. And then the last one that I have for you here is Zach Greinke.
Ooh. Trying to think. Yeah, I'll move Randy Johnson up to 3, and then Martinez up to 4, Greinke's 5.
Okay, sounds good. Actually, I do have one more here. I saw his name and I have to throw him in here. Max Scherzer. The big blockbuster trade for the
Yeah,
Dodgers.
he's got potential now that he's on a Dodgers team to where he's going to get that much more attention than he did in Washington. Top 10, yes. Top 5, not yet. So him, Kershaw and Verlander, all probably top 10, but they got a ways to go. Obviously, they have their championships, they have this and that, but to be a top 5 starting pitcher of all time, you got to put in the 15, 20 years of consistency. And obviously they're all still younger in their careers than that. So yeah, I'll say top 10, but not top 5.
Sounds good. And that was the Ynot segment for today.
Sounds good. Yeah, then moving over here to the NBA. I guess coming right out the gate here, 2 guys declining their player option. Kawhi Leonard and Chris Paul both declining their player options to return. I can't remember what the numbers were. I want to say Kawhi's was like 40.
Kawhi's was 36 and Chris
36.
Paul's was 44.
Okay, so that's what it was. So yeah, they both declined their player option to become an unrestricted free agent. On Chris Paul's side, he didn't decline it because he wanted to leave. He declined it because he wants to sign more of a long-term 2 to 3 year deal with the Suns. But I mean, given where he's at, if the right team comes along that is championship ready, I mean, which the Suns are, they just went to a final, so obviously they're right there. But if another team comes knocking, I mean, I could see him leaving, but at the same time, both he and the Suns said that they wanted to reach a deal and keep him in Phoenix. So I don't see him moving there. But then on the other side, Kawhi, I could definitely see him leaving. I mean, he only had a couple of years with the Clippers, so it's kind of a short, kind of a bite-size sample of what he could have did there. But I mean, I feel like it's too many superstars on that team to where, I mean, obviously it didn't help that he got hurt. Could have been a completely different story if he stayed healthy throughout the playoffs. They could have been the team coming out of the West in the NBA Finals. But I don't think the result would have been any different as far as the Bucks going on their run and winning it all. But I don't know. I guess what do you kind of think on Kawhi's situation? Do you think he stays, or do you think he's going to look elsewhere?
For Kawhi, I think he's going to stay. Only reason I think that he's going to stay is that he convinced Paul George to leave his team and come there, and he's on a 3-year deal. And that was obviously he could have taken his last year with $36 million, but like you were like saying before, I'm pretty sure that he's going to re-sign. I'm going to look 4 to 5 year, probably, maybe even another max deal with the Clippers and end his career there. He was an LA kid. He's always wanted to be in LA. He won in Toronto, and now he's home. So I don't see him having any inclination of leaving unless it's at the trade deadline, joining a super team. But he doesn't seem like the type of guy that would do that. So I think that he's going to stay loyal to where, he ended up and wanted to be. He chose to be there. He had the whole NBA to choose from where he wanted to go. He chose to be there. So I don't see him leaving anytime soon.
Yeah, and I mean, at first glance, seeing these guys decline their player option, it looks like, oh, he wants out. It's like, no, they just want more money is basically what it comes down to.
Or to restructure a deal
to
bring in somebody else that they need to make room for. Because, the Suns, if they, they're a little shy of picking up a couple players and being dominant, and same with the Lakers. If they get some shooting with Westbrook, LeBron, and AD, they could be a dangerous team. Something interesting here for you. What would you do? I've heard a lot of people now speculating that now would be the time to get rid of Anthony Davis in LA to get him move a lot of money, and you have him for 4 years. What are you guaranteed of his 4 years paying him how much money is when he misses pretty much every single season?
Yeah, I mean, he's just with the injuries that he's dealt with. He's definitely going to decrease in value with every injury that happens that goes on, to where the Lakers are either stuck with him until he decides to retire, or they're not going to get the value out of him that they want to if they decide to move him down the road. So, I mean, now is the time to move him. There hasn't been any talks, any speculation whatsoever of moving him. They're actually looking at bringing more people in. And actually sticking with that, a rumor circulating within the Lakers organization is that they're interested in bringing in Carmelo Anthony from Portland, which would help. Again, how we were talking the other day with the 3-point outside the 3-point line being a problem for that team, as nobody on that starting roster aside from LeBron, who's kind of somewhat developed into a 3-point shooter later in his career. You bring in Carmelo Anthony, who's kind of a corner specialist like PJ Tucker, which would kind of, again, bring that versatility to that team of being a 3-point shooting team. But at the same time, there's been a lot of people kind of saying, oh, if you bring in Carmelo Anthony, like kiss goodbye to keeping LeBron in the conversation with MJ, because he has to bring in that much star power to be able to win, to where
See, I used to give that a big knock on LeBron, but now looking at how the NBA is, that's just how the NBA is now. It was just different times back then, and now we're in a time where if it seems like every NBA player are best friends with each other, and everybody wants to play with their friends that they grew up playing AAU with or knew down the road. Like, it seems like everybody wants to play with their friends, and it's awesome that the NBA like encourages that and is so willing to like let all these trades go through and stuff like that. So I used to give it a knock on LeBron, but I'm really not anymore. Like KD joining the Golden State Warriors, name one player who would have turned that opportunity down to easily win a championship.
yeah.
So you can't knock the guy for joining a super team to win.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
but on the flip side, though,
game.
I agree that there's super teams forming within the NBA, but at the same time, look at the Bucks. They just basically stepped on the whole NBA world's throat and said, you don't need a super team to win a championship.
No, if you build the right group of guys, it's been 8 years. If you
yeah,
stick with the core group of guys, the young guys that you bring up, and you have the right coach, the right whatever, you can win. So that's like Toronto. They were nowhere near filled with superstars when they won.
Yeah.
Like that was same thing as the Bucks. They played tremendous defense, and they had the 2-3 guys to go to when it got tight.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the two ways the NBA is going. Then is either you build a super team to win now, or you stick it out with a group of guys for 5 to 10 years.
You stink for a couple years, and then you go for it.
Mm-hmm.
But that sounds. I personally think that that's probably the best strategy to go with is the young players. You get them for cheaper, and you add the pieces as you go, like what we did with adding the Tucker, adding Drew Holiday, adding, it was adding the little bits and pieces that the team needed, and you got a championship.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we'll kind of see what happens with the Lakers if they do decide to go after Anthony or bring in a different piece, but they definitely do need to bring in somebody who is a 3-point shooter on that team. Just with the way the NBA is going, the Lakers would probably be in the top or the bottom 5 teams of 3-point attempts and percentage unless they add somebody to that roster.
Yeah, and then another big question mark that's up in the air here is between 2 players, actually, is Kyle Lowry. Where is he going to land? I know it's indicating that he's going to end up in Miami. And then Ben Simmons. What's going to happen with him? I've seen one ridiculous trade come out where they asked for 4 number 1 picks and 2 players who are pretty good for Ben Simmons. And
yeah, I saw. I don't know if it's the same one you're thinking of, but the with the Warriors, they wanted James Wiseman.
That's what it was. Andrew Wiggins
and Andrew Wiggins.
Picks.
Yeah, in exchange for Ben Simmons, and and then there's like sources that came out and said that was the quickest decline in the Warriors have ever seen from a trade coming in, and I don't blame them. I don't know. Philly's just
Philly's
trying to
stuck with him, dude.
they're trying to convince the world that he's good by asking a lot for him and just trying to get lucky where a team says, "Oh yeah, we'll take him," but this ain't fucking NBA 2K to where you can get the computer to accept the trade and I got him. Like these guys are paid millions of dollars to run these organizations, and there's no way that they're giving him away for that much. But yeah, I think
Especially
they're
when his
stuck with him.
value's at the lowest it's ever been.
Yeah, if they last season, like even last season, that would have been a ridiculous trade, like what they asked for like the Warriors, and he was better then, but I don't know. Either they're stuck with him or
Some team that's in a desperate rebuild is going to take him and, try to rejuvenate his career.
I could see before the trade deadline, somebody goes out with a leg injury or knee injury or some kind of injury that puts them out for the rest of the season or most of the season, and they go out and get Ben Simmons to bring him in and try to help the team. Until then, I think the 76ers are stuck with him.
Yeah, or I said, you ship him. He takes a trade and goes to like the Minnesota Timberwolves or a team that's at the bottom of the league, and in a team that's really young, and you try to rejuvenate his career with some young guys around him and see maybe if he can turn it around. But all indications right now are pointing to that 76ers are kind of screwed.
Yeah,
they held on to him too long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then the last point I had for the NBA then is Giannis takes his trip to Greece with the Larry O'Brien Trophy as he visits his hometown and neighborhood, and celebrates his championship with his home nation. So that was really cool to see. He was there yesterday. I think he's back in the U.S. already, so he was just there for like a day or something. But again, great to see him go back to his home country, and Giannis was saying that he hopes to be able to take another trip again in the future with another trophy.
Yeah, I definitely could see that easily happening, especially if the Bucks can keep that core group together. Until someone wants to call it quits or wants to leave and go somewhere else. I feel like the Bucks have their name, they've deserved to put their name in the conversation for winning a championship. So that's really all I have to touch on that. And my last point is Kevin Durant, past Carmelo Anthony, became the top scorer for the Olympic team, and the fastest to do it. I saw a lot of players giving him the nod and saying what a tremendous scorer he is. And then I was just thinking, like, he probably is the greatest scorer of all time. But then I saw this Kobe Bryant stat, and it was Kobe Bryant has more 50-point games than LeBron, Jordan, and KD combined. He has more 60-point games than LeBron and Jordan combined, and he has more 80-point games than all three of those guys combined. And it was just like, so who's the best scorer? And I was like, damn, that's a great argument, actually, for, he did it for so many fucking years.
Mm-hmm.
And where KD's still young yet, he's still got, I don't know, to play till he's 40, I feel like, to have his name past Kobe.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too with Kobe having those bigger games. It was the rest of the team buying in, saying, "All right, he's on the night. Just keep dishing him the rock." Like, just like, and even in his very last game, I think he had 60 points. 61, his very last game, and that was everybody on the Lakers team accepting the fact, all right, this is Kobe's last game. Just keep giving him the rock, let him shoot. I like the NBA is very different now than from that because of the fact that it's easier to shut down a guy who's getting hot, to where if a guy is getting like higher up like that, to where you switch from zone to man or switch matchups, whatever it could be, teams will find a way until they can slow that guy down, to where back then it was it was cool back then to where like the opposing team would just accept the fact that, yeah, this guy's putting up 80 on us, but at the same time, you'll never see this. So like, it's going to happen, to where now, like I said, teams try to shut that down a lot more, to where it's going to be harder for KD I don't think he'd ever hit 60. I feel like he'll have a couple more 50-point games, but I don't see him ever hitting 60, 70, or 80 in his career.
I don't know, with the development of shooting and how far back these people are shooting. You didn't see that in Kobe's time,
Yeah.
and also the physicalness on defense. You used to be able to get fucking grabbed and thrown down, and now the person would be ejected. Like the game where he played with his torn Achilles. Like there's so many fucking times where he's been banged up and hurt and
Mm,
still put up 50, 60, 70 points. Like
yeah.
unbelievable, like for how he could get it done. And then as far as like the team buying into giving him the ball, that just was Kobe's nature. I remember the one part that sticks out from the Last Dance documentary was the Kobe's first All-Star game when Jordan was covering. And in the locker room, he said, this fucking guy, whether he's double team, single team, triple team, he's fucking shooting the ball. Like it doesn't matter. He's getting the ball and he's shooting. And that was Kobe Bryant. He wanted to score every fucking time he touched the ball. And you don't see that in a lot of players. And Kevin Durant has that same mentality where he's looking score first, pass second.
Mm-hmm. Well, look at the team Durant's on now too, with Kyrie and Harden and Blake Griffin. All those guys want to score too, so that's taking the ball out of his hands that much more.
I feel like Kyrie's accepted the fact playing with Kevin Durant that he's the guy. When it's crunch time. Even James Harden, I feel like knows that he's at the last legs of his career, and it's the team goes like how the Bucks kind of are. As Middleton. Giannis is so consistent. He does the same thing every night where it's kind of Middleton as the team goes, or Holiday. We need that second guy to make it go, where Durant is that, he's that guy that needs to make the team go. If he's going, the team's going. Where if he's not, he's kind of that one guy that the team's got to rely on because, Kyrie's had 40-point games. He's a very good player as well. But like you said, with the height and whatever, defenses are getting better at shutting down the middle. Like it's harder to get to the lane and get a layup now than it was back in the day, just due to people are way taller now and are so much more athletic that it's so much more difficult. And that's why you saw the evolution of the 3-point shot to where the small guys who are 5'7", 5'8", 5'9", pull up from half court and drop it from 3, because you ain't getting to the hoop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Everybody's as good as an athlete, once you get to that professional level, that you just got to accept what you got sometimes.
Exactly. Well, cool. Then wrapping things up in the NBA, then moving over to the MLB here. Chris Bryant hits a home run in his Giants debut yesterday as San Fran beats Houston 5-3, and they win their weekend series. The Crew as well take care of business yesterday behind a Willie Adams home run and a 2-1 win to win the series against the Braves. A couple injuries here. San Diego Padres could be in a tough spot as young star Fernando Tatis Jr. suffers a shoulder injury, which could be season-ending. The team will monitor him for the next 8 days to see if his status improves, to which at that point, they might have to scratch him for the rest of the season. And this was the third time that Tatis Jr. dislocated his shoulder. So they're really cautious moving forward with him. Obviously, if he doesn't make progress, like I said, in the next week or so, they're going to have to look for another option. And I don't even know when the trade deadline's up, if they can even pick up anybody else anymore. I don't know when it is, but
it's over. It was August. It was I think it was 11 o'clock this morning or yesterday.
Oh, okay.
It's over now.
But I mean, the rest of the Padres got a lot of other great players on the team. Obviously, Tatis Jr. is the core of that team, and as he goes, the rest of the team goes, and they're in a really tough division with the Giants and the Dodgers, who just both picked up some players to elevate their team. So the Padres could slip here if Tatis Jr. is going to be out the rest of the season. And then the other injury, Mets ace Jacob deGrom will be out until at least September with a right forearm inflammation. Kind of sucks to see his season going the way it is. He's dealt with now. He's on his, I think, third or fourth injury that's put him out for some time. And he's on pace to have one of the greatest starting pitcher seasons of all time, having a sub-1 ERA. So sucks to see him missing some more time there for looks like at least another month. And then lastly, here in Olympics baseball, the U.S. falls to Japan as they come one game short of the semifinals. They aren't done yet. They do move to the losers bracket, in which they will play the winner of the Dominican Republic Israel game. And then if victorious there, they will play the loser of the Japan South Korea game to move on to the gold medal game. So the U.S. still has a chance to get a medal here, but they're going to have to win at least one more game and then move on to play potentially Japan, who just beat them again. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and then I had a couple things too. Talking about Chris Bryant homering in his new home, Anthony Rizzo and Javier Baez also homered in their first games with their new team. So it seemed like they got some magic, excited to be in a new home, embraced by a new team, especially a team that's on the winning side of things. And they bring their offensive dominance, which is why the teams reached out to get them. Javier Baez, he's the one out of the three that has tremendous defense in his game. But yeah, all three of those guys, it's awesome to see that they've moved on, left their old part of themselves in Chicago with the championship, and they're looking to chase down another one now. So thought that was awesome to see that all three of those guys ended up hitting monster home runs, dude. They're like just crushed home runs. Like it was awesome to see that. So that, and then the last thing, some news with the Crew here. The Milwaukee Brewers are reuniting with John Axford via a $1 trade with the Toronto Blue Jays.
$1?
$1. They don't want him on his roster anymore. So the Brewers picked him up, and he's going to retire a Milwaukee Brewer. His comeback, this is his comeback tour that he's trying to, he's trying to show that he can still pitch. And the Brewers acquired him for $1 on Monday. He hasn't pitched in the MLB since 2018, and that's kind of when he got hurt and kind of like let go. This season in AAA, he's 1-0 with a .84 ERA and 9 relief appearances for the AAA club. So still seems like he's got some gas left in the tank. Brewers always, you always can use a reliever, especially those teams that are sitting at the top of their division. Comes down to pitching when it gets to postseason time if you really want to make it. So having an experienced reliever who's been, he's been in the Brewers organization, and he was loved here when he was here. So I think that's awesome that he's, getting a comeback here.
Yeah, it's awesome to see him come back. Yeah, like you said, every bullpen can always use an extra couple guys, so that's definitely not going to hurt anything.
Yeah, and it looks like he still has a team record, 46 saves in one season.
For the Brewers?
In 2011, when we went on our run and almost made it to the World Series. Because I think that was the year that we got the closest. It was either that or 2008. I think both of those years we ended up making the NLCS and then losing.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, or 2 years ago, fucking what's his name in the goddamn outfield that fucking botched the ball and we lost.
Trent Grisham.
Yeah, dude, that was a World Series appearance right there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because then the Nationals went on to win it.
They were the lowest seed. They were the wild card, and they ended up winning. Yep. Unbelievable.
Well, sounds good. Moving over to hockey then. What's going on over there?
So what is going on in the NHL world? Nothing, nothing really major here over the weekend. I guess there's 3, big things here kind of coming out with this thing. NHL is investigating San Jose Sharks forward Evander Kane on betting on his own games. They're looking into, so it's kind of fucked up. His wife allegedly was betting on his NHL games. So she was making a profit off of that, which is illegal. You can't have insider information when you're betting. And so they're looking into whether or not he was throwing games or doing shit on purpose to help her win some money or whatever the case may be. But yeah, those are all just allegations right now. Nothing has been proven. But the NHL is obviously has to do their job and investigate the situation there. Alex Ovechkin just launched an NFT on July 30th. That's looked pretty sweet. I know it's probably going to sell majorly back home in Russia. It's pretty sweet to see that. And then the question marks on whether the Chicago Blackhawks got fleeced in the trade for Marc-Andre Fleury. He sent out a FaceTime video as he was getting on his private jet heading into Chicago. Says, "Hello, Chicago. I am here, and I'm going to give it all I got." It looks like he was just waiting to talk to management to see. He wasn't going to go there if they had any intentions of trading him during the season. He wants to end up in Pittsburgh. He wants to retire in Pittsburgh. So look for one solid year here with the Hawks. With that team that they built, they definitely could be a Stanley Cup contending team. And yeah, look after the season for him to, whether or not he sticks it out for one more season, but look for him to end his career in Pittsburgh because that's what he wants. And as a hockey fan, that's what I want as well. He was beloved in that city. He kind of made that Pittsburgh dynasty continue from what it was when Mario Lemieux and Sidney Crosby came in there and the Malkins. He was that guy who's been a huge cornerstone of that team, getting them to their Stanley Cups. And it was unfortunate for Pittsburgh to make the wrong choice and sticking with Matt Murray instead of Marc-Andre Fleury, like I said before, as he just had his best season as he's ever had. So I think that's cool for, the Blackhawks and the deal that went through, and neither team's got screwed. Each team still has a number one goalie, and everything's going to move on from there. And then the last thing that I have here is still ongoing news with Jack Eichel, the captain of the Buffalo Sabres. Still with his whole thing, he demanded basically a trade and wants to get out of Buffalo. Buffalo's not willing to release him as he's their captain, and he's on I think he's still on a 6-year deal. The agents wrote that the agent literally thought that the team was going to deal him before the start of the NHL free agency period, which opens on last Wednesday. The Sabres are not responding to anything publicly. They've been asked so many different questions, and they're saying nothing's. So kind of like Aaron Rodgers in the situation with the team, he came out and issued a statement saying basically how he wanted to get a surgery. Buffalo Sabres told him, no, you should not get the surgery. There's a different method to deal with your whatever. Looks like whatever he was doing, he had a herniated disc. The staff recommended not getting an artificial disc put in with the surgery and just healing it right away. They recommended just doing physical therapy and trying to, heal on its own. It nagged him all season long, and it's been getting worse and worse. He released a statement on Friday night, blatantly just saying the process of trying to mend this is not working. Just whatever is going on behind closed doors. Obviously, that's not public. With them trying to dictate his medical, I feel like the player, unfortunately, when you sign the contract, you're a property of that team. So they literally have the dictation of what you can do and what you can't do when it comes down to that type of stuff. But I feel like hopefully with this situation, maybe things change going forward where if a player, wants to do a certain thing, they should be fully allowed to do whatever they want to their own body and not be controlled by some outside entity of being able to be dictated of what you can and can't do as far as healing yourself. It's just really interesting. This whole thing has kind of gotten way out of hand, and it's who knows when this rift, I guess, is gonna end. Because if he gets moved, that's a superstar talent. That's a top 3, top 6 forward, definitely. That could definitely make a big impact on any team that he's on. He's one of the most explosive skaters in hockey. So hopefully he gets back, back to where he was before any of this injury, because back problems, I fucking slid a disc and broke my L6. I didn't have a herniated disc, so I don't know what that feels like, but just the process of that still nags me every single day. And so who knows? Obviously, he's in way better shape and has, the top medical professionals around him, around the clock. But still, anything with your back or neck and kind of deals with, that kind of lingers with you the rest of your life. Hips too.
Yeah. Well, cool then. I guess kind of rounding out the episode as we have been the past couple weeks here is some Olympics talk.
One thing I got one thing before we get into the Olympics to close it out here.
Sounds good.
The number 2 prospect in 2022, in the top 300 ESPN 300 for college football prospects, quarterback Quinn Ewers is skipping his senior season of high school football to join the Ohio State Buckeyes. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens here.
How do they do that?
Because you can graduate early.
Oh, I was going to say
you can technically graduate. One of my next door neighbors, actually growing up as a kid, he graduated from high school and he was 16 years old. He was all done. So you could technically go to college when you're 16 years old, as a freshman, and you have 4 years of eligibility. So there's no limitations on what your age is when you enter that. So if you meet all the credentials and obviously get accepted to the school, he's probably got a full ride, obviously being the number 2 prospect and especially being a quarterback. So yeah, looks like they're bringing him in and getting him ready to go. And which is kind of funny because they just lost one of their prospects who was in the top 15, who was a linebacker. He just decommitted from Ohio State. So decommit, and then you get the number 2 guy in the following year. So I'd say that's an upgrade.
Yeah, I would say so. The guy must be a genius if he can graduate a year early too.
Yeah, and then one quick thing here, a fuck up that we haven't mentioned one of those in a while here. We got a college kid here, cornerback for the Clemson Tigers, Fred Davis II, was charged after driving 115 miles per hour in a 55 mile per hour zone, and a crash that ended up injuring a postal worker. He ended up running into the mailman and causing injury to this person. So who knows what's going to happen to him? Obviously, what an idiot for driving 65 miles per hour over the speed limit. But you live and you learn. You're a young kid. So hopefully everybody's okay, and hopefully everything works out. And I don't know, hopefully gets his shit together.
That's crazy. 65 over the speed limit. I can't even imagine.
115 and a 55, dude. Like,
that's a no-no.
Well, these kids now, with how they can get money and paid for shit, they've got sponsors. These kids are probably driving Lambos, Corvette,
yeah,
pedal to the metal. Like if I was 16 years old and had $1 million thrown at me, what would you do? Obviously, you're gonna go buy a fucking badass sports car.
Yeah,
you're in prime time in high school, in college, you want to show off. That's what you show off with, or they'll buy a fucking huge watch or necklaces or some shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought that was funny. I had to mention that real quick.
Yeah. But yeah, moving over to some Olympics talk here. Breaking coming out of the Olympic world this morning, Simone Biles announces that she is going to return for tomorrow's balance beam. For those who've been kind of following her story, she withdrew from a handful of events earlier due to some mental health things that she was going through. So great to see her coming back for one of her best events that she's at. Let's see here. The women's soccer team lost to Canada 1-0 in the semifinals. So that
I watched it. I stayed up and watched
it. Oh, you did?
Yeah, I stayed up and watched it. It was 0-0, dude, for the longest time. And USA had the pressure on all game long. Like, I forgot what the final was, but like I want to say we had like 15 corner kicks like on their end, and we just couldn't put the ball in. And then when it got down to, it was like 78th minutes, something like that, with like little time left in the game. I think there was only like 12, 13 minutes left of the game. And the Canada chick bopped it over the defenseman. Chick from Canada's cruising, dude. The fastest I've ever seen somebody like want a ball. Beats the U.S. chick, and the U.S. chick like grabbed her by the arm and kind of like pulled her down in the box. So it's a penalty kick. So they lined up, boom. She kicked it. The goalie actually saved it, but the speed of it was too much where her fingers bent back and it like wasn't enough to keep it out of the net. So it was a great play overall, great kick, a great attempt for a save. She got her hands on it, just wasn't enough. Kick must have been too powerful to keep that out. And then, after that moment, you could see the U.S., all the announcers too were kind of like, oh my God, like this is literally the U.S. hasn't lost to Canada in 26 years, no matter what competition for women's. And they're saying, I can't believe this is going to happen. I can't believe this is going to happen. And you could tell the pressure went from no pressure to sky's the limit pressure on these athletes. Some of their passes and kicks that they were trying to do, they were bombing the ball way over the net into the stands. It's like they were trying to do too much. They let the pressure get to them, and they crumbled. And it was unfortunate to see the U.S., come up short of making it to the gold medal game. They will, however, play for the bronze. Just heartbreaking to see that going for the gold, coming up short after arguably they said that this was one of the best teams that they've ever put together as far as like talent wise, and shows talent doesn't beat hard work.
Yeah. And then let's see here. Moving over to track and field, then that got underway this weekend. Some stars who qualified for the finals: Gabby Thomas, Sydney McLaughlin, and Talia Muhammad all qualified for finals. And Valerie Ellman wins the gold for women's discus. So great to see that. And then women's basketball, they were challenged by France, but they extend their Olympic winning streak to 52. And then, as mentioned before, U.S. baseball team loses 7-6 to Japan, but they still have a chance to come back for gold going through the losers bracket.
Yeah, that game was an extra innings. Japan rallied in the 10th.
That's right. Weren't they up five runs at one point?
It was 5-2. They're up by 3. It was 5-2, and they came back and beat them. So,
jeez,
it's kind of awesome, for the home country rallying at home in their own country in the Olympics. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, that's all I have. Just kind of going off of a highlights post here, just mentioning some stuff. I don't know if you had a couple other points to throw out there.
Yeah, a big volleyball match tonight as we are in the final 8, the quarterfinals for women's beach volleyball. Our top team of Alex Ross and Alex Klein. Is it Allie Ross?
April Ross
and Alex Kleinman, the top and the only remaining team on the U.S. side for men's or women's volleyball. They won yesterday in a pretty good match. Seemed like they kind of had it going. I know Canada's been a huge the Wilkerson Bansley team. They don't play till tomorrow at 7 a.m. But that team is unbelievable. Look for the United States. We play the German team tonight at 7 p.m. So that'll be obviously on the NBC primetime channel here in the U.S. And yeah, I'm excited to watch that and see how that goes. As they came up short with the bronze last time, arguably the 2 best, and now they took April Ross and they went and found the young stud in Alex Kleinman, and seeing what we can do here. I hope, hopefully they can get a gold medal out of it. That would be phenomenal to see Americans on the podium for that. And then, that's kind of it. There's just a lot of, track and field, like we mentioned. That's going on today. There is a handful of final events. Women's long jump is at 8:50 p.m. tonight. The men's 400-meter hurdles, the final for that is at 10:20 p.m. And then if you stay up a little bit later, you can watch some other finals. those wrap up at 7:50 a.m. tomorrow morning. You have the men's pole vaulting, women's hammer throw, women's 800 meter, and the women's 200 meter. All of those are the medal races. So those are a chance, for teams to get some medals, as the medal count has kind of separated a little bit here. China's taken a 7 medal lead here, right?
Yeah, they have 29.
29-22. And they have closed the gap as well, as we had like a 20 medal lead in total medals. That lead is shrunk to 2 now. China's got 62 and we have 64 total. So yeah, we better get it in gear here if we want to contend with China, as they're always pretty good. They got athletes in track and field as well that can run the show. Table tennis is finishing up here, so China and Japan are going to get some medals there. Yeah, very, very cool to see. And then the one thing that I did have to mention as well is Pat McAfee this morning had her on his show. It was the first ever women's judo winner at like the 56 kilogram weight. First ever in the history of the United States. So thought that was awesome. He had her on the show. I forgot what her name is. It's pretty funky, Alejandra something. And yeah, just want a quick shout out on that, getting a gold, and USA keep going.
Sounds good.
6 more days, 7 technically here because we're behind them. But yeah, 7 more days to watch the Olympics. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how that happens and wraps up.
Yeah, and we'll be back Wednesday then. Obviously, for whatever the sports world has to throw at us.
Sounds good. You want to take her home today?
Do I have to?
No, I was just seeing if you wanted to.
Sure, I'll give it a go. So thanks everybody for stopping into today's episode. Oh, just giving a shout out to our channel has kind of blown up over the weekend. So a big thank you to everybody who has stuck around, helping with the watch time, watching our episodes all the way through. Kind of great to see all the time and effort we put into this show starting to pay off, all thanks to you guys. So yeah, be sure to check out all of our socials. Again, make sure to hit that subscribe button in the corner of this video. Helps us get partnered on YouTube, and then head over to our Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, as well, to check out our socials there. And for our audio episodes, check out Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, anywhere associated with Anchor, you can find us there. Be sure to give us a 5-star rating, helps us move up the charts. That's greatly appreciated. And yeah, we'll be back on Wednesday to talk some more sports with you guys.
Sounds good. We will see you guys on Wednesday. Have a good one, everyone.